Has the vinyl community capped out? This is going to be another one of those, whatever you want to call it, type videos where I'm meandering on some sort of topic that I've been thinking about, and you might have thoughts about as well. I have, like a lot of you, have noticed that there are obviously a lot more channels out there in the vinyl community. And when I say vinyl community, if that's anybody that's joining who is new, look at that hair, look at that. Vinyl community, what does it mean? Who is it? There's a lot of different subsets, I think. So the general statement I would say, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the people that coined the phrase, I don't know who coined the phrase, but what the vinyl community as I knew it was a collection of people like myself who would make videos pertaining to music, specifically the collecting of vinyl records. Now, it also includes really anybody that collects physical media, whether that is CDs, cassettes, reel-to-reel, 8-track, whatever. There's all sorts of people that might disagree with that say, oh, it's just for people that collect vinyl. Well, when I started in December of 2020, I probably only had 25 vinyl records, if even. I bet you I probably didn't even have that. And now I have, 300-ish. So, the vinyl community, there was a connection, there was a connectivity with people. We had a lot of contests where people would say, show records pertaining to a particular theme or a series of questions, and lots of channels would then jump on and do the contest. Generally, there would be some sort of prize for the winner, like any contest. There were these things called threads, which I recently did, where you just kind of try to get a conversation starter going. Show 5 albums that, got you into music. And then you make a video about that. And then it might string itself along where other people are doing the same theme. And then you get to see all sorts of different types of collections. You might be introduced to a new channel. There is the big vinyl tag, which that's a video in and of itself as to what the vinyl tag has kind of become, and the sub tags, of which I make one. I've done the Americana tag 3 years in a row. So the community element was very strong. I met some really good friends in the beginning. Most of the people that I met in my first couple of years are the people that I'm still, somewhat close with, talking off camera, texting, knowing more personal aspects of their lives, and I cherish those friendships. Even if my channel dropped tomorrow, if YouTube was shut down, those are people that I'd want to stay in touch with. But what has kind of happened recently is there's been just this influx of channels being made. Again, not a bad thing. And with that, more and more people kind of falling into the quote influencer element of making videos. Now, in a way, we all try to influence others, right? If you're talking about influencer as a colloquial term, the influencer culture is, oh, I've got, these records from these record labels and I'm supposed to hype it up. Or, I'm somebody that is trying to build a very quick fan base so that I can then influence them to buy a product or to subscribe to my products if I'm somebody that's selling something. You have people that are makeup influencers. You have people that are movie influencers. You have people that are Disney influencers that go to Disney World and are noticed by the companies and given kind of some perks because they know that they're pulling in big audiences to make that company more money. Again, with that, I don't know how many people we would point to in the, quote, vinyl community as influencers. There are channels that have tens of thousands of subscribers. There are, channels that have just a couple thousand subscribers, but still are noticed by the, by certain artists, by corporations to promote products. So there's there's this wide range. I mean, even for example, one of the main artists that I see pop up a lot on YouTube is the John Lennon estate. John Lennon, specifically his son Sean Ono Lennon, obviously has somebody or himself on the pulse of these music channels on YouTube. And there are a lot of good people that I know here on YouTube that are the recipients of the Lennon's generosity. So that's what I'm referring to. It's kind of become this thing where I've noticed that everybody kind of wants a piece of that action. And I'm not talking about the Lennons. I'm just talking about the general idea of thinking, oh, I have a music channel. I know, Joe Schmo over here has a music channel. He's getting free stuff and I'm not. So therefore I have to compete with him to then get free stuff. But I like different music than Joe. And I'm saying, Joe Schmo, whatever you want to call him, John Smith, a generic channel. Like, I want to be like him, but he likes John Lennon and I like Tom Petty. There's this, the Tom Petty estate, to use them as an example, I don't see them doing the same kind of promotions that the Lennon estate does. I think that we're all trying to compare apples and oranges on our channels, and I think it's become more and more apparent. I'm guilty of it. I'll be the first to admit I'm guilty of it, and would love for my channel to have more of a noticeability factor. But I know my weaknesses. I know I'm not a good editor. I don't have fancy equipment. I can't afford fancy equipment. This is not my full-time job. I'm not retired. I'm very busy on weekends with out-of-town family. So there are all these different factors that come into play that I can use, as an excuse to not get the channel noticeability that others get. I think the big thing that is kind of, I guess, starting to become more and more noticeable is that this so-called community aspect of the vinyl community has started to fade, and that makes me very sad. Again, I also would say that I'm guilty of it. I've said on several of my videos, I'm not big on doing contests or doing threads anymore. And I think really a big part of that is, one, there are so many channels that do them now that I don't want my whole channel to be filled up with videos of contest entries and threads. I know they're not the most enjoyable videos to watch, and I would rather put out a video that I think you would learn something from, or something that I'm a little bit more passionate about, whether that's, new album releases or concert reviews. And again, I know a lot of those videos don't get looked at. But I think I just need to really make this channel more about what I want to do. And I think a lot of people are doing the same thing. And as a result, that community element is being dissolved on the grand scheme of things. Now, I know there are a lot of opportunities to make this more of a community. I know our friend Mike over at MGK Boston has now hosted for several summers a big cookout at his house, and dozens of people from around the country, some from around the world, come to his house and hang out for a weekend and buy records and talk music. That to me is the coolest thing. And one of these days I'm going to get up there. That's awesome. And again, like I said, I've had wonderful conversations with people who I talk to off camera that, they're dear, dear friends to me. Just for example, my buddy Rich Strickler, one of my favorite people. I talk to him as much as I can, in addition to doing videos with him. Glenn Kellaway from The Basement, and chat with him a lot. Alex from Beer and Vinyl, Tommy's Musical Adventures, Jason Arsenault, Rob from Northern Revolutions, Matthew Street. These are people that I talk to off camera a good bit, and are people that I would want to stay in touch with after this channel eventually goes away, because I'm sure it won't last forever. And that's the community aspect that I miss. And maybe it's partly me, maybe it's partly how channel content has to be put out now, with more and more emphasis on the back end of YouTube, with the algorithm and this and that. I think that the vinyl community needs a kick in the pants. I think the vinyl community is at a point where it's taking itself way too seriously. I think that we all feel entitled to be getting noticed by the wider music industry. And from what I've found, from visiting record stores, from talking with people that were in the music industry, just regular music fans, the 99% of people, 99.9% of people that go into a record store has no idea who we are. They don't know, they don't care. They are there to buy a clean copy of Dark Side of the Moon or Sgt. Pepper or Rumors and go home. They don't care about Kevin Gray or Bernie Grudman or Ryan Smith. They don't care. They don't care about audiophilia. They don't care about, having 30 copies of Pet Sounds. They are there for the love of a record and taking that record home and playing it on their Crosley turntable. That is the majority of the music buyer. There's no way around it. That's who's going to record stores. Now, there are the folks like us that also go. There are people that go that know a lot more about records than anybody on YouTube does, but they don't have a channel and they don't watch us. So this is what we make of it. And I think that these videos, like this one, are important to kind of think about, because I know I get in my head a lot. I know my last few videos have not done that great. And I get in my head a lot about who is watching these stupid videos. And the answer is not really anybody. So it has to be, at the end of the day, something that I want to do, something that I am pushing to announce, or talk about with the 20 of you that still watch my videos. And as long as I am doing that and keeping that relationship, then I will keep doing this. Again, I don't know how long this channel is going to last. There have been times in the last few months that I've really wanted to quit, because you lose momentum when the so-called community kind of crumbles or dissolves around you. And I feel like that's happened a bit. But this is kind of my way of talking it through and realizing that, I wanted to make a video about, a small concert I went to. I wanted to make a video talking about Tony Rice turning 75. These are things that I think people would like to know about, because it's introducing new music to people. But I need to tell myself that most folks on YouTube, most folks in the real world, don't need to know that information. And I need to accept that and put out the videos for those of you that do like that information. That's a lot. Don't even know what all it means, but I'd love to talk to you about it. So comment below. Do you agree with me on any of this stuff? And yeah, we can have a civil discussion. So that does it for me. In the meantime, y'all be good. Take care. And we will see you on the next one. Bye now.